about each option and not necessarily to choose one over the other or to cast your vote. So thank you for raising that issue. It's hard to hear.
Very good. As we started with this, our first concern was not knowing enough to be able to articulate a meaningful response. You know, for example, how well does the proposed concept, or either A or B, provide a place for community events? Well, you know, that's one of the great questions in a community. And it would depend on what kind of space was being provided, how it would be administered, how it would be organized, you know, how people would have flexible ways of using it. And this is other than recreational, you know, standard gym, swimming pool, and that sort of thing. And then a real concern about losing the soccer field that we now have. Even though I reminded people that EGS is now doing terrific soccer fields, you know, just like this one. So it's.
So it turned out that several of us were actually at a table together also at the April 20th meeting. And I know the purpose of this wasn't to go down this direction, but it just sort of became evident, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. Back in April 20th, we were kind of leaning towards the thought that a new building would be more interesting and wonderful and new. After seeing more detailed designs, it was pretty clear there was kind of consensus that people were pretty enthusiastic about what they were seeing for possibilities with the reuse option. And some of the main comments were, we can get excellent facilities here for less cost. Maybe the savings from not building a new building allows us to even have better versions of those facilities.
Yay!
Building. People really didn't like the idea of building over top of the new soccer field that was just built. I could go into several additional details.
Right.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I had the distinct privilege of being with teachers and parents, which is very nice because they have a very focused view on what they want for their children. And so they like the idea of enclosed classrooms with bathrooms included. Very concerned about the community's access to the building because we do serve children and don't want there to be a safety issue. Concerned about parking and drop-off and pickup. Sorry, I know you said just one thing. But concerned about that and possibly thinking about taking away one of the tennis courts and having drop-off parking space for parents to access. Concerned about Plan B and there being two separate facilities with the early childhood playground up at the top and the children down at the bottom. And the idea of the pocket parks. Louis Bueno.
I think as well as similar to what Billy was saying, we're starting to see that there may be some advantages to the reusing and adapting this facility as opposed to building entirely new. We were also, as Tony pointed out, we were a little unclear about the community event space. It seemed like it was there were sort of a couple of small spaces in the existing building plan, but maybe not a big enough space, for a major event. It seemed like it was pretty good for the recreational aspect. We didn't know, and maybe someone knows here, is the existing soccer field a regulation field, or does that matter?
No.
Okay. Is that at all an issue?
No.
Nope.
Not for children.
Okay. We were just
Right.
trying to know that.
Right.
And also, we weren't sure where the kiddie pool is in the existing, but
It's right here behind the pump house.
okay. Okay. Well, we had a lot of issues, and we didn't even get to the other questions, but it's a start.
So in our table, we found out that both of the plans A and B are very appealing in terms of the design, the uses of space and light, and the right environment created for learning is perfect in both plans. We are concerned we don't know the time frames between versus plan A and plan B. Which one would be faster? We tilt towards plan B because it increases the space for both the community services as well as the school. It also makes a beautiful recreational court with a tennis court, soccer, all of those things kind of beautifully assigned. But we know that economically speaking, it goes far beyond our budget, and that is a gigantic minus. We like Plan B also because it will facilitate the culture of the school while construction is happening.
That's right.
It will stay here, and it will be a beautiful transition to the new place. What else? So those are the terms why Plan B was more appealing to us.
So we had a really great mix of teachers, staff members, and families, many of whom live in the Marie Reed area. We were thinking about the legacy of the school, and specifically the legacy that Marie Reed and other community members were able to create. So we, as a consensus, loved the idea of option A because we felt as though this environment and this space is dedicated to children and to families and to the community and the educational program. And the best way to support that legacy and to continue that for generations was to continue with option A. And we felt that it was very child-focused and community-focused. And all of the different organizations in the Community Learning Center were able to stay together as it was originally envisioned.
Good. Kind of piggybacking to what he said, our main option was option A, just about the historical preservation of the building, reusing it, because it has that significance to the community. One of the pros also with option A is, I think Jeff had mentioned about the skylights using possibly being an option to design element and maybe bringing that pool up to the front to give it some presence. For option B, there were some cons in regards to it felt like the building was being pushed to the corner of 18th and California, which would be blocking views for driving, access to going up Adams Morgan. That would be blocked also, and also moving the soccer field, which is already has been, I guess, relatively new. That's kind of a thing that they don't want to do. So in my group, I had parents, neighbors, staff members here to kind of put in and give input on this.
Those 5 things. And interestingly, it came out to almost entirely tied. Site related, we gave pluses to both plans, but there was slightly better on B because there was better pedestrian traffic and parking in B than A. Elementary school environments, we gave a plus to both plans, slightly better in A because people like to set up the skylights, the cafeteria being central, but some questions about the cafeteria noise being located in the center of the plan. Construction impact and project economics was sort of a split vote, that obviously the money goes with Plan A, but staging is much better in Plan B. Virtually no disruption in Plan B. Community partner facilities was a clear win for B and a clear negative for A because there's not much size increase for the community partners in A, but there's a big increase in B. Also parking for those facilities. Green design is a clear win for A and a clear loss for B. And the central question that we came down to was the A plan seems like we can get a smaller Ferrari. It's a smaller building, but it's very tricked out. But the B plan, because it's more expensive in its basic structure, we're getting much more space, but probably at a higher elegance level. So that, I think, is a critical community question. Do you value the space more, or do you value the high-endedness?
How the garden's doing.
We didn't choose, we didn't approach this as a choice between one or two. We really just discussed the concepts and shared our ideas on both options. We did spend quite a bit of time talking about the aesthetics, the sightlines, how B allows for better pedestrian access and the plaza. However, A maintains the sightlines off of 18th Street, as you guys observed. The value, the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity of building a brand new building exactly the way you want it was very appealing, and we didn't want to lose sight of the fact that there's really an opportunity there. On the other hand, there is a feeling that this building is charming but ugly, and if we have the opportunity to maintain the charm but get rid of the ugly, it would go a long way toward improving the perception of it. Perhaps some of the difficulty is just in imagining how it could be less oppressive of a presence, because right now it is a very dark and oppressive presence in the neighborhood and in Champlain in particular. So, and finally, the final point that I wanted to emphasize is that because it's such a massive presence, if we do see with A, changing the exterior facade, and also in particular changing the lighting and the security of the surrounding space is really non-negotiable for the neighbors, because the level of crime, the level of trash, the level of fallout from being as close to the awesome and vibrant 18th Street corridor as we are is something that needs to be addressed in this moment now that we have resources.
Although I would say we lean more towards A. And part of that is because there's so many questions about both of the options. Certainly with regard to A, we've heard that it's going to be opened up, but we haven't really seen what that actually means. So I think as the process goes along, we have a better sense of whether or not A is really preferable. There were certain things about A that made sense, one of which was, contrary to with what some of the other groups thought, was we understood there's actually going to be more space for the educational part of things in option A than option B. We had a number of particular concerns that are, I guess, most pertinent to option A. One of them being that if you're going to open up the roofs and have skylights, can you also have solar arrays up there? That was an interest we had in wanting to make sure that there was definitely the possibility of solar power with whichever option is chosen. We also had some concerns about the drop-off problems that might be associated with option B. We saw only one place for entry for the kids in option B, which is up on 18th Street. Now with the school, we have both 18th and Champlain as places for drop-off, and the buses can take Champlain. It seems like, I think option B is a little bit problematic from the side of things. And then we had a lot of pool discussion. We have pool users in our group. We preferred with option B. We wanted to have the more lanes for sure, because the current pool is overused. We had some concerns about the kiddie pool. One member of our group, that's the parent, did not want the kiddie pool to be directly adjacent to the adult pool. There were safety concerns associated with that. Now they're very separate, so we didn't really have consensus on how to resolve that, but I think that's an issue worth looking at. And also